You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of February 13th, 2026. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we're not going to sit here while you badmouth the United States of America. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal. Okay, we're going to start off today with a bang. It's language lesson day here at The Professional Left, and we're going to talk about versatile words. Words that have lots of different meanings packed into one little packet of consonants and vowels. For example, the most versatile word in the English language is not the one we're going to be focusing on, but it's a good example, and I think we all know what that word is.
Perhaps one of the most interesting words in the English language today is the word fuck. Out of all of the English words that begin with the letter F, fuck is the only word that is referred to as the F word. It's the one magical word. Just by its sound can describe pain, pleasure, hate, and love. Fuck, as most words in the English language, is derived from German, the word frichen, which means to strike. In English, fuck falls into many grammatical categories. As a transitive verb, for instance, John fucked Shirley. As an intransitive verb, Shirley fucks. Its meaning's not always sexual. It can be used as an adjective, such as, John's doing all the fucking work. As part of an adverb, Shirley talks too fucking much. As an adverb enhancing an adjective, Shirley is fucking beautiful. As a noun, I don't give a fuck. As part of a word, abso-fucking-lutely, or in-fucking-credible. And, as almost every word in a sentence, fuck the fucking fuckers.
And since we're language nerds here, we'd like you to know that versatile words like that F word, actually have words that describe their versatility. Mm-hmm. These are called polyfunctional or polysemous words. These are words which are versatile enough to be used in a variety of ways. As you heard, the word fuck is widely recognized as the all-time English language champ. It can be used as a verb, noun, adjective, adverb, intensifier, or interjection. It can convey a whole spectrum of emotions and meanings, even opposite meanings. Think about it, right? Fuck. And fuck. You can say all kinds of things with that one word, from anger to surprise to joy to disgust.
There was an episode of The Wire where our two main detectives, that's the only word they used during like a 13-minute investigation. And you knew exactly what they were.
Yeah, a crime scene, right?
Searching for a bullet.
Yeah.
And they found it. But yeah, that was and it was clearly writers having a ball.
Yep.
Making that scene.
And actors having a ball.
Oh, yeah.
Inflection. Yep. Mm-hmm. This is what makes it both a polyfunctional and polysemous word. Polyfunctional means a single word can function as multiple parts of speech. And polysemous means a word that has multiple related meanings. For example, head can refer to a body part, a leader, to be on top of something, etc. And the specific polyfunctional words and phrases we're going to talk about today are ones you likely hear, especially if you're a political junkie. Mm-hmm. You could hear these 100 times a day.
Right.
You might hear them several dozen times a day at least. And if you read or watch the news, you probably hear them 24 times a day. You probably use them yourself. We use them.
We do.
Yeah.
And yet, as often as we hear and read and use those words in the context in which we hear and read and say them, we have no clear, concise, agreed-upon understanding of what the hell they mean. Now, isn't that strange when you think about it? Isn't that strange? If we were sitting back to back and you were to describe to me an object like, let's say, a cup or a checkerboard or a carburetor or something quantifiable like, say, a dozen eggs or size 13 shoe, I would have a pretty good idea what you meant. Without a lot of adjectives, I probably couldn't visualize the exact shape and size and color or whatever it was you were naming. But since we start off broadly agreeing with the basics of what these things are, I'd be able to understand you and you'd be able to understand me. Basic stuff. And yet here we are with our media filled with polyfunctional words that we hear every day, that we might use every day, but that no one can define with any precision.
The specific polyfunctional words and phrases we're going to talk about today are at the political end of the spectrum of what George Carlin called soft language, euphemisms, jargon, and politically safe terms that he believed concealed reality, diluted meaning, and softened the truth. In his 1990 HBO special, he argued that such language takes the life out of communication, replacing direct, honest words with evasive phrases. Specifically, today we're going to tackle terms like America, the American people, the voters, and the public, and particularly the American people. We want a flare to go off in your head when you hear that term.
Yeah. And that's a big job because what is America? What is America, Blue Gal? Well, as Bad Bunny reminded us during the most viewed halftime show in history,
Yay!
The most basic factual definition of America is that it is a landmass in the Western Hemisphere comprising the continents of North and South America. In strictly geographic terms, America refers to the combined continental landmass stretching from the Arctic in the north to the southern tip of South America. America, a land of contrasts, if you will. But we want to be a little more specific because that really doesn't tell us anything. So what does the United States of America mean, right? We're getting there. We're getting there. Again, the most basic definition of the United States of America is a federal sovereign nation in North America composed of 50 states and a federal district, that'll be Washington, D.C., and several territories. It is a constitutional republic with a federal system of government, and its authority is defined by the United States Constitution.
Okay, fine, Driftglass, but what does it mean to be an American, a United States American, as opposed to Europe?
Yeah, you put an N on the end of that, an American, not America.
American, not American, right?
Right.
Once again, at the most basic factual level, to be an American means to be a citizen or national of the United States of America. I've always thought that was very unfair because Canadians and Mexicans are North Americans.
Yes. Well, this is the United States Americans. Just America. United States Americans.
Exactly. Legally, that status can be obtained by birth in the United States, birth to U.S. citizen parents under certain conditions, like John McCain, or naturalization through the legal immigration process.
Which has suddenly become very controversial.
Yeah, all of a sudden.
Love that word, don't you?
Controversial one more goddamn time. Talk about soft language.
Yeah, exactly.
What the president said was controversial. No, it's not. Everybody knows he's lying. Okay. Now we move from bare facts to interpretation.
Right.
Where if we were sitting back to back and you asked me to describe a hammer, we talked about that. My description would, I don't use a hammer as often as you do, but roughly we would have the same description of a hammer.
Sure.
Now, you might be thinking of a ball-peen hammer, and I might describe a dead blow hammer or a mallet, but we'd understand each other, and you would be able to guess from my description that I was talking about a hammer.
Absolutely.
And vice versa. On the other hand, if I'm back-to-back with this total stranger, and they ask me to describe the voters, or the public, or the American people, and what makes the American people a people, our answers might diverge so wildly that you'd never know we were from the same culture and spoke the same language.
Which is crazy. Which is just crazy.
Well, white supremacy is a hell of a drug, Driftglass. I'm just going to tell you that.
Now, for example, and this is going to, I hope this touches your heart, but it might break your heart a little bit, because if you grew up with Schoolhouse Rock,
which both of us did.
We sure as hell did. You may remember the Great American Melting Pot. And if you do, you might describe what America means this way.
My grandmother came from Russia, a satchel on her knee. My grandfather had his father's cap he brought from Italy. They'd heard about a country where life might let them win. They paid the fare to America and there they melted in. A lovely lady Liberty with her book of recipes and the finest one she's got is the great American melting pot, the great American melting pot.
America was founded by the English,
but also by the Germans, Dutch, and French.
The principle still sticks, our heritage is mixed. So any kid could be the president.
You simply melt right in. It doesn't matter what your skin, it doesn't matter where you're from or your religion. You jump right into the great American melting pot, the great American melting pot.
However, if you happen to be, let's say, Ralph Waldo Emerson, writing in 1837, you describe the American people as a cultural project, self-reliant, intellectually independent, not merely an extension of Europe, more of an aspirational description than a description of what we actually were. He was very passionate about the cause of abolition, as I'm sure you all know, and about the need for Americans to break from the past. Now, this was Emerson in 1862 at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Quote, America is another word for opportunity. Our whole history appears like a last effort of the divine providence on behalf of the human race and a literal slavish following of precedents as by a justice of the peace is not for those at this hour who at this hour lead the destinies of this people, unquote.
Which is broadly in line with our Schoolhouse Rock example. Yeah. And if you were Emerson addressing the Phi Beta Kappa Society of Harvard University 5 years later, just 2 years after the end of the Civil War in July 1867, you would be describing the spirit of the American people in hopeful terms, while exhorting American intellectuals to stop being so dithering and weak. Quote, difficulties exist to be surmounted. The great heart will no more complain of the obstructions that make success hard than of the iron walls of the gun which hinder the shot from scattering. Bad kings and governors help us if only they are bad enough. In England, 'tis the game laws which exasperate the farmers to carry the Reform Bill. 'Tis what we call plantation manners, which drove peaceable, forgiving New England to emancipation without phrase. In the rebellion, who were our best allies, always the enemy. Notice they call the Civil War the rebellion. Always the enemy. The community of scholars do not know their own power and dishearten each other by tolerating political baseness in their members. Gentlemen, I draw new hope from the atmosphere we breathe today, from the healthy sentiment of the American people, and from the avowed aims and tendencies of the educated class. Unquote. David Brooks could have written that.
Well, Oliver Wendell Holmes, ever heard of him?
I've heard of him.
He called that speech America's Intellectual Declaration of Independence.
Good Lord. I want to stop there for a minute because that is such hokum.
Well, talking to Harvard.
You have a country where the South is just waiting to step on the necks of black people once again.
Yes. Yes. Well,
and just waiting for the Union soldiers to leave and get tired.
But this is so immediately after the war, I believe, that Union soldiers were still there.
Yeah, right.
We hadn't broken faith with the South yet. They hadn't been withdrawn yet. Jim Crow hadn't been enacted yet.
Right.
There was still some hope.
And so he was hoping that we could move forward onto a higher plateau of Americanhood.
Yeah.
And all we needed was for the intellectual class to catch up with how great this was going to be. And we know what happened.
And you remember, I'm sure, Tommy Lee Jones playing
in Lincoln.
saying, here's what we're going to do. We're going to seize every piece of property. We're going to divide it up into farms for free black people. And we're going to put Union soldiers down there to enforce it. And that's what we're going to fucking do.
Yeah. And we're going to leave them there.
And they didn't do that. And that's why 100 years later, we had the civil rights movement, because they were just waiting for a crack to go right back to the horrible old way.
And I have to say that even today, the Constitution of the state of Alabama is primarily there to keep property taxes low because plantation owners wanted that.
Yeah,
and that is still in effect today.
And how big is the Constitution of the state of Alabama? How many pages? Like thousands of pages.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages.
Yeah.
Because there's no local rule. You have to do a constitutional amendment to govern, bass fishing.
Yeah, which is insane.
In Alabama. It's absurd. It should be stomped out by federal law that they keep doing that. But
federalism, honey, the states get to do what they want to do.
States get to do what they want to do, and they won't. Every time there's an effort to change it and make it like other states, everybody screams tax increase.
Yeah, because that's the worst thing that ever happened to anybody.
Right.
Well, hang on to that thought when you consider Frederick Douglass's keynote address at the July 5th, 1852 Independence celebration, where he asked, what to the slave is the 4th of July? And his answer to who are the American people was very different. Quote, I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn, unquote.
Happy Black History Month, Driftglass.
Yeah.
Despite what the federal government is doing to erase it.
Exactly.
Speaking of that, Sojourner Truth had this to say in her 1850 narrative. And Driftglass and I were picking out quotes for this episode, and I read this to him, and we talked about a way to shorten it.
Yeah.
And we agreed there is no way to do that.
No. Why would you? It's
And why would we? It's fantastic.
Well, let the people decide for themselves.
Okay. Yes. All right. Here we go. Sojourner Truth, people. Here she is. Oh, the fantastic tricks which the American people are playing before high heaven. Oh, their profane use of the sacred name of liberty. Oh, their impious appeal to the God of the oppressed for his divine benediction, while they are making merchandise of his image. Do they not blush? Nay, in their glory, they glory in shame. Once a year, they take special pains to exhibit themselves to the world in all their Republican deformity and Christian barbarity, insanely supposing that they thus excite the envy, admiration, and applause of mankind. The nations are looking at the dreadful spectacle with disgust and amazement. However sunken and degraded they may be, they are too elevated, too virtuous, too humane to be guilty of such conduct. Their voice is heard saying, Americans, we hear your boasts of liberty, your shouts of independence, your declarations of hostility to every form of tyranny, your assertions that all men are created free and equal, and endowed by their Creator with the inalienable right to liberty, the merry peal of your bells, and the deafening roar of your artillery. But mingling with all these and rising above them all, we also hear the clanking of chains, the shrieks and wailings of millions of your own countrymen, whom you wickedly hold in a state of slavery as much more frightful than the oppression which your fathers resisted unto blood, as the tortures of the Inquisition surpass the stings of an insect. We see your banner floating proudly in the breeze from every flagstaff and masthead in the land. but its blood-red stripes are emblematical of your own slave-driving cruelty. As for the restoration, as you apply the lash to the flesh of your guiltless victim, even the flesh of a wife and mother, shrieking for the restoration of the babe of her bosom, sold to the remorseless slave speculator. We catch the gleam of your illuminated hills, everywhere blazing with bonfires. We mark your gray processions. We note the number of your orators. We listen to the recital of your revolutionary achievements. We see you kneeling at the shrine of freedom as her best, her truest, her sincerest worshipers. Hypocrites, liars, adulterers, tyrants, men-stealers, atheists, professing to believe in the natural equality of the human race, yet dooming a sixth portion of your immense population to beastly servitude, and ranking them among your goods and chattels, professing to believe in the existence of a God, yet trading in his image and selling those in the shambles for whose redemption the Son of God laid down his life, professing to be Christians, yet withholding the Bible, the means of religious instruction, even the knowledge of the alphabet from a benighted multitude under terrible penalties, boasting of your democracy, yet determining the rights of men by the texture of their hair and the color of their skin, assuming to be the land of the free and the home of the brave, yet keeping in chains more slaves than any other nation, not excepting slave-cursed Brazil. Vaunting of your freedom of speech and of the press, your matchless constitution, and your glorious union, yet denouncing as traitors and treating as outlaws those who have the courage and fidelity to plead for immediate, untrammeled, universal emancipation. Monsters that ye are, how can ye expect to escape the scorn of the world and the wrath of heaven? Emancipate your slaves, if you would redeem your tarnished character, if you would obtain forgiveness here and salvation hereafter. Until you do so, there will be a stain upon your national escutcheon, which all the waters of the Atlantic cannot wash out.
Yeah, let's sit with that for a second and consider a couple of things. First, I don't want to follow that, but I have to because we're doing a podcast and it's a magnificent speech. Secondly, how current is that?
It's addressed to every Fox News blonde wearing a cross around her neck and talking about immigration.
Absolutely. I mean, it really couldn't be more timely. It isn't what you say, it's what you do. Mm-hmm. And when your words contradict what you say so profoundly every day, when you lie with such ease and you don't care that people know that you're lying, hypocrisy really doesn't do it justice. Mm-hmm. But the rest of the world looks at us now, the mm-hmm. American people, and think, well, we're done with you. Yeah. This is who you are. This is the face you've shown to the world. And now we're done. So to continue, because we must, I'm going to quote James Baldwin now. James Baldwin wrote about how the American people were not defined by a shared myth, but by a shared history, about which we're often in denial, aren't we? And you have to go no further than Donald Trump ordering the National Park Service to tear down plaques and cancel videos and displays that don't agree with the MAGA whitewashed version of American history to see just how true this actually is. Now, in theory at least, America is not supposed to be about blood and soil, but a nation born of an idea. And please bear with us, since one of the best quotes on this subject is from definitely not a friend of the pod, Ronald Reagan, in his last speech as president. But it is quite appropriate. Quote, "Since this is the last speech that I will give as president, I think it's fitting to leave one final thought, an observation about a country which I love. It was stated best in a letter I received not long ago. A man wrote to me and said, you can go live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German or a Turk or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American, unquote. And because we are a nation born of an idea, since the day we were founded, there has been a running battle over who gets to claim to speak for America. And for all those other adjacent polyfunctional words and phrases like the American people and the voters and the public, the people and the country. This is the grand prize in politics and in the media. The brass ring and the fight over who gets to speak for America has been going on as long as we have been a country.
So question. Were the Confederate States still part of the American public while they were in what they called rebellion?
Mm-hmm.
What some called rebellion. Well, that depends on who you ask, doesn't it, really? Who you ask and what you mean by the American public, which was exactly why the question mattered so much during the Civil War and still matters today. Because legally and constitutionally, the Union's position was yes. Lincoln's administration insisted over and over again that the Confederate States had never actually left the United States. Secession was treated as illegal. The states were in rebellion, not a foreign country. Under that logic, white Southerners were still U.S. citizens. The states still existed, and the rebellion was an internal insurrection. This is why Lincoln could claim to act on behalf of the American people as a whole, and why Reconstruction was framed as restoration, not conquest. But in rhetoric and practice, the Confederacy was often excluded from the American public as a moral and political community. Union rhetoric regularly contrasted loyal Americans with rebels or traitors, effectively redefining the American people as those who accepted the Union and its authority. And that's another scene from Lincoln.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where the Southerners think, well, we're going to come back to the Congress and undo everything you did about slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And Lincoln had to say, fuck no.
Yeah, well, he already had that beat. But they were like, they kept insisting that, you know, we're a conquered people. What do you expect? And they were told, you're not a conquered people. You'd be American citizens.
Yeah.
That's, you know, you'd be citizens of the country, just like you were before. This is how we've always thought of you.
Yeah. Yeah. The phrase the American people narrowed in wartime to mean the loyal public, not everyone living within the existing U.S. borders.
Yeah. And that ebb and flow has been going on forever. Mm-hmm. And from the Confederate perspective, and I'm stuck with doing the Confederate perspective. So thank you very much.
The white man has to do the Confederate perspective. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. The answer is a definitive no. The Confederacy claimed to be a separate people altogether, with its own public sovereignty and national will. Confederate leaders explicitly rejected membership in the American public and framed the war as one of one nation fighting another, even while demanding international recognition on that basis. Also, Confederate leaders very explicitly portrayed themselves as the true heirs of the American founders. It claimed to be the truer, purer America, thus making them the true American people, a successor state that preserved what it said the Union had abandoned. They were the real Americans. In 1969, jumping ahead a couple of years, with the popularity of the Vietnam War, unpopularity of the Vietnam War growing very quickly, in his televised address to the nation on the war in Vietnam. This is how Nixon began to wind down his speech. And of course, we deeply apologize for quoting both Reagan and Nixon, but it couldn't be helped. It's just, that's what we're talking about today. So here we go. Quote, "Today, we have become the strongest and richest nation in the world, and the wheel of destiny has turned so that any hope for the world has for the survival of peace and freedom will be determined by whether the American people, have the moral stamina and the courage to meet the challenge of free world leadership. Let historians not record that when America was the most powerful nation in the world, we passed on the other side of the road and allowed the last hopes for peace and freedom for millions of people to be suffocated by the forces of totalitarianism. And so tonight, to you, the great silent majority of my fellow Americans, I ask for your support, unquote. And there it is, not just mentioning the American people, but calling on the great silent majority to back him. And he would use that phrase again and again, contrasting his invisible silent majority with those anti-war protesters who, he insisted were just an unruly mob, a tiny minority. This has been the Republican playbook ever since, when you think about it. The decent people versus the indecent, the stoic and silent good Americans versus the loud and dirty bad Americans.
And I gotta say, it was brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
The silent majority was a brilliant piece of politics.
Yeah.
Because it included all the independents.
Absolutely.
And people who just sat on the couch and watched Walter Cronkite and didn't do anything.
Right.
Didn't have an opinion on the war because it never affected them. Their children weren't being drafted. Black people were being drafted. Poor people were being drafted. Their kids weren't drafted because they sent their kids off to college to avoid the draft. And so the silent majority was just, oh, I guess I'm with Nixon. Even if you never voted.
Right. He just arrogated you to his cause by claiming.
To his side. And so you belonged with him.
You were the real American. You were the good American.
You're the real Americans. Exactly. It was brilliant to do that.
Yeah.
And remember George W. announcing you were either with us or with the terrorists?
Yeah.
That was Iraq war supporters versus the America-hating, terrorist-loving left, which was the running theme in every right-wing publication and every hate radio broadcast and every night after night on Fox News for years. And Laura Ingraham never gave it up.
No. It's still not a theme.
People that still want that juice. The Laura Ingraham show, the Ingraham angle, gives it to you every night.
Well, and the whole idea that Barack Obama, for example, was going to unite the country. When these people were like, fuck, you're not. We're going to sabotage everything you try to do. We don't want to be united with you people. We think you're inferior. We think we're the real Americans and you're a bunch of usurping scum. So the idea that we're going to unite with you is laughable.
It always has been. It's MAGA patriots versus the baby killing commie Democratic left. Baby killers. It always comes down to legitimacy. And this was something that Ornstein and Mann talked about.
Yeah.
Republicans just refusing to accept the legitimacy of any opposition to them. You're not real Americans if you're not a Republican. And that legitimacy whose vision has been endorsed by the people, whose policies have been ratified by the nation, which is why Newt Gingrich and his Republican henchmen were so fanatically single-minded about impeaching Bill Clinton. He was an illegitimate president in their eyes.
Yeah, they were. Some of you might be too young to remember this, but there were a number of Republicans who kept referring to Bill Clinton as your president, not my president, not my president, your president. Would not acknowledge that he'd won twice and that he was the president and he was legitimate.
Yeah. And why the Republican Party, led by conservative hate radio, were so fanatically single-minded about sabotaging Barack Obama's policies and delegitimizing him personally as a Kenyan commie usurper, which was it's so funny how that turned out. Because I've said this on the podcast before, the only thing Barack Obama wanted to do was little tiny policy wonk, gigantic 2,000-page bills that would transform society, but would be granular.
Yeah.
And what he was forced to do by Republicans who blocked him doing that was become royalty.
Yes.
He had to do symbolic things. And that meant he was on TV talking to school children, doing science fairs in the White House, and presenting an image of America's dad, which softened him.
Yeah.
In the eyes of a lot of people who, didn't really want to, I don't know if I want to really believe in this, a Democrat, black guy. And all of a sudden he's around kids doing, launching marshmallows in the White House with science projects.
Yeah, picking up a baby and making it stop crying.
Yeah. All of
letting
that stuff, which is stuff that kings and princes do as a symbolic way to lead the country.
Yeah.
Where he really wanted to just write Obamacare bills that were 2,000 pages and would get into the weeds of policy.
Right.
And he couldn't do that because Republicans blocked him every time.
Yeah.
And why Trump and his Republican henchmen have been so fanatically single-minded about discrediting the 2020 election results. It's absurd. It's why Trump and his henchmen can't go 5 minutes without vomiting out some garbage about the radical loony communist left. It's why Trump orthodoxy enforcer Laura Loomer went on that long shrieking rant on Twitter accusing Republican Senator Tim Scott of secretly siding with Democrats and trying to destroy the Republican Party because he said Trump's incredibly racist post should be taken down. It's why she ended the post with "Fuck you, Tim Scott," and "Resign, traitor."
Yeah, because now he's the other. Now he's not a real American.
He's other, yeah. He's not a real American, not a real Republican. He's an outcast.
He's in the pocket of George Soros, and everyone knows how that goes. So let's get back to who are the American people and who speaks on their behalf. This is from John Kennedy, not John Kennedy, 35th president of these United States, but garbage John Kennedy, Republican senator from Louisiana. Quote, "My Democratic friends just can't accept the fact that the American people chose Donald Trump to be president. It's called democracy. My advice to them, I say this gently, fill out a hurt feelings report and let's move on," unquote.
This was Lindsey Graham, May 20th, 2017, quote, "The American people chose Donald Trump," unquote.
Yeah, this is from David Bossie. Anybody remember David Bossie? On Meet the Press, December 3rd, 2017, quote, "It's been litigated and the American people chose Donald Trump to be their president," unquote.
On February 17th, 2017, Trump called the fake news media the enemy of the American people.
The American people have an enemy, and it's ABC News. Now consider how that same mysterious aggregation of human beings, the American people, are referenced by respected historian and all-around good egg, Heather Cox Richardson, who I hope you're listening to. Her January 13th, 2026 Politics Chat video is entitled, "The American People Refuse to Obey in Advance." In conversation with Chelsea Clinton, and I can't quite find the date, but it's very recent, she said, "The American people are the source of our power." And this was Dr. Richardson on September 18th, 2025. Quote, "It's extremely difficult to bear down on 341 million people all protesting in different ways," unquote. And, quote, "If you stop thinking about the country as us versus them and start thinking about it as the American people versus an autocrat, the lens changes a lot, doesn't it?" Unquote. So it seems pretty clear to her whose side she thinks the American people are on. But even if you stop thinking that the thing that's charging at you as a rabid dog and start thinking about it as, a lightning bug or something harmless like that, that doesn't mean the lightning bug isn't 90 pounds of rabid fangs and muscle that's very, very dangerous, and it's going to make you very, very unhappy unless you're very careful.
But we want to really dial in on this one. It's from the Bucknellian, which is the weekly student newspaper of Pennsylvania's Bucknell University, November 14th, 2024. Quote, "When the American people chose Donald Trump as president-elect on November 5th, it came as a major shock to much of the country." Now, believe us, we are not picking on a student newspaper, even a college student newspaper. More power to them, and may they go on to do great things. We mention it because it sums up our language lesson for today so concisely. Because how can it be that, quote, "the American people chose Donald Trump," unquote, and yet that choice comes as a major shock to, quote, "much of the country," unquote. How can much of the country not be part of the American people? I think I know.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer to that, but
yeah,
let's talk a little bit more about it.
And speaking of the American people, as long as we're on the subject, This is from a single press release from Mike Johnson, that would be Speaker of the House Mike Johnson, this week from February 11th, 2026. Quote, what Democrats are doing in this process is they're putting hurdles in the way of the goal, and it hurts the American people. Remember, they forced upon us the longest shutdown in U.S. history last fall, 43 days. Then that did real harm to the economy. And to who, Blue Gal? To who?
The American people.
To the American people for no reason. It's all politics. And we're asking them to put that aside and do what's right for the American people. The Democrats want to stop that. And if their policies are enacted, we would just have open borders. We have open, unimpeded immigration. That's not what the American people voted for, and we're doing the right thing, unquote. And this is from a single press release from the same Mike Johnson one day earlier on February 10th, 2026. Quote, the American people have good reason to feel this optimism. We promised the American people we would do it. We got it done. Finally, you're watching the economic growth numbers. They're off the charts. Yeah, they sure are. We think that's going to happen all the way through the year, and so do the voters, and so do the American people, which is hilarious when you consider that he's separating voters from the American people. But there it is, the invocation of I am one with the American people.
It's absolutely...
It's everywhere.
An incantation.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. On the other hand, there's this from The Guardian, January 21st, 2026. Quote, an assessment by the Century Foundation's New Democracy Indexing Project found that the U.S. had recorded a staggering 28% collapse in democratic health over the past year, small d democratic health over the past year, from 79 out of 100 in 2024 to 57 out of 100 in 2025, the kind of sudden decline more typically associated with a coup or other major shock. Nate Schenken, the report's lead author and a former research director at Freedom House, hoped to help Americans distinguish between the push-pull of partisan politics and the authoritarian behavior of the current administration. When a major change happens in a political system, it's very unevenly distributed, Schenken said. Certain people will feel it first. Certain communities will feel it harder and faster. And it is really important to recognize that just because it hasn't come to you doesn't mean that it won't. I think a lot of white Americans are finding that out.
Yeah.
From Minnesota, from the lessons of Minnesota. Yeah. Last year, millions joined No Kings rallies to denounce a president they say has wielded power like a monarch. At the ballot box, Democrats won a series of victories in the 2025 off-year elections and are well positioned to retake the House and possibly the Senate in the 2026 midterms. Trump, meanwhile, remains unpopular nationally, a vulnerability for his party heading into this year's elections. A CNN poll found that a majority of Americans believe Trump's policies have worsened economic conditions in the country, and 58% call his first year a failure, unquote.
So 58% call it a failure. Is that the American people, Blue Gal? Is
Those
that the American people?
Those people answering the poll, yeah, those American people.
But I mean, what does the American people even mean? This is from ABC News, January 13th, 2026. Quote, Trump boasts of economic boom as voters remain concerned about higher prices. Trump claimed inflation was defeated despite it holding steady at 2.7%, unquote. And then there's this from The Hill, February 6, 2026. Listen carefully. Quote, Senator Adam Schiff, Democrat of California, claimed Sunday that the public has turned against Trump, President Trump, whose polling numbers have recently slumped following multiple controversies.
Controversies?
There's that word again, Blue Gal. The public.
Controversy. One more goddamn time. I hate that word. Anyway.
The public has turned against him. In every election we've had since his election, the voters have swung wildly against him. And as you know, he said on that prayer breakfast, his ego cannot stand another loss, Schiff told ABC News' John Carl on This Week, unquote.
Okay, there's a lot going on here. Second part first. To turn on someone means a sudden and usually unexpected switch from being an ally, friend, or supporter to being hostile, treacherous, or antagonistic. It represents a shift from loyalty to betrayal or direct attack. So, was the public supportive of Trump until now?
And then they turned on him.
Yeah. And now let's get back to the first part. Who exactly is the public? Is it the same as the American people, as the voters, as the country? The technical definition of the public is of or concerning the people as a whole, from the Latin publicus, meaning pertaining to the people, state, or community, which isn't helpful at all,
No,
is it?
Not at all.
Throughout all of recorded history, the desire to know the future, predict the outcomes of battles and harvests has been nearly universal. It's why the Greeks trekked to the Oracle of Delphi to consult the Pythia, a priestess of Apollo, for prophecies about the future. It's why Romans revered the sacred chickens and routinely consulted them on matters of the utmost importance. They believed the sacred chickens could confer power on those who heeded the predictions about the future that were gleaned from the way the chickens were eating.
Yeah. Just like going to a think tank these days, you know?
The sacred chickens.
Yeah. But how seriously did they take the sacred chickens, Blue Gal? Well, let me tell you. During the First Punic War, a gentleman named Publius Claudius Pulcher turned to them for approval of his plan to launch a surprise attack on the Carthaginian fleet. When the chicken watcher told Pulcher that they were not eating, which was a bad omen, he replied, "Since they do not want to eat, let them drink," and had them thrown into the sea. Waste of good chickens. In the naval battle which ensued, nearly the entire Roman fleet was annihilated, and a humiliated Pulcher returned to Rome, where he was tried on the charge of impiety, because you do not screw with the sacred chickens.
I think that's become a regular line in our house.
Yes.
Don't screw with those sacred chickens now.
Do not screw with the sacred chickens.
In this country, our sacred chickens are focus groups and research polling, and of course the punditocracy, which excels at making ambiguous yet declarative statements at that Ohio diner.
Mm-hmm.
In our country, the state of the future isn't usually determined by naval battles or the death of kings. In our country, the fate of the future very much depends on the next election. In other words, which way the American people will jump this time, which is why polling companies and focus groups and pundits do a land office business.
Yeah, telling us all what the American people think. But do they? Because this is also why groupthink and conventional wisdom doom the pundit class to being mostly wrong most of the time. Because they're not really paid to predict the actual future.
It's going to be Rubio, Driftglass.
It's going to be Rubio. Don't worry, everybody. It's going to be Rubio. They're almost always paid to tell the readers or subscribers or Patreons or patrons or publishers what they want to hear. And so they spin fairy tales about the wisdom and righteousness of the American people and make sure that their version of the American people either includes the readers and subscribers and patrons and publishers, or it flatters them. But since we here at the Professional Left are all about clarity, Blue Gal, for clarity's sake, let's turn to one of the books on every poli-sci major's shelf. Richard Hofstadter's The Paranoid Style in American Politics, published way, way, way back in the before time of 1964, Blue Gal.
Wow.
Hofstadter makes it clear that talk about the American people is usually doing political work and not descriptive work. In paranoid rhetoric, the people are glorified as some sort of single, innocent mass. They're pure, they're unified, and they're always being betrayed and sold out by somebody. And anyone who disagrees is probably part of the shadowy conspiracy against the people.
That's Mike Johnson.
Yeah. Bingo. Well, yeah, you can name 1,000 people in politics, and this is their thing. Hofstadter's language, which includes things like heated exaggeration, suspiciousness, conspiratorial fantasy, like the 2020 election was stolen, captures how this rhetoric feeds on fear while pretending to channel the popular will. Like inducing lunatics to storm the Capitol based on a lie. The speaker isn't listening to the people, they're ventriloquizing them. Invoking the American people becomes a way to shut down argument, short-circuit complexity, and turn political disagreement into a loyalty test.
In his 1948 book, and get this for a title, The American Political Tradition and the Men Who Made It, Hofstadter is even more blunt. He argues that American politics, for all its supposed passion, has long been trapped inside a narrow ideological cage, bound by an unusually firm and widespread consensus of white men, which he didn't say, but of white men, around property, capitalism, and individualism. He could have just said the patriarchy. But anyway, I digress. That consensus defines who counts as the people before anyone ever opens their mouth. So when politicians invoke the American people, they're rarely expanding democracy. Instead, they're guarding the fences around it. However apocalyptic the rhetoric gets, the assumptions underlying it rarely change. The range of vision is tightly policed by gender, race, class, sexuality, wealth, all the usuals.
Yeah.
It's why it's such a threat to certain conservative voters when you have a mixed race marriage selling laundry soap.
Oh, is this even America anymore, Blue Gal?
Yeah.
Is this even America?
Yeah.
And you have clearly gay people with children selling, cereal.
Yeah.
You have trans people showing up in commercials. Oh my God.
Yeah.
What's happening to this country, Blue Gal?
Yeah. Well, taken all together, Hofstadter's work suggests that the American people is one of the most effective lies in American political language. It's very much like, the silent majority, a phrase that claims universality while doing exclusion, that promises popular power while consolidating authority, that turns a messy democracy into a moral fairy tale with villains conveniently pre-labeled as un-American. Mike Johnson knows this.
Yep.
And that lie fits hand in glove with another of the most effective lies in American political language. You know it, I know it.
Yep.
The both sides do it lie.
Yeah, they fit right together. In our politics right now, there are actual fascists trying to eradicate American democracy and replace it with a white, Christian, nationalist autocracy. Those are called Republicans. And I'm talking about all Republicans. If you're not out by now, you're part of the fascist movement in this country. They are the American people and voters and members of the public every bit as much as the patriots who are actively opposing the fascists in every way they can think of. That coalition, by the way, is about 95% Democrats, members of the Democratic Party, plus a few independents and now former Republicans who've seen the light and have joined the good guys, and good for them. And those two groups, the fascists and the allies, let's call them, are also the American people and voters and members of the public every bit as much as that vast, dull, uninformed wad in the middle who are determined to stay in the middle no matter what. They don't know what's going on. They don't want to know what's going on. All they know is that the extremes on both sides are yelling at each other, and that extremes are bad, Blue Gal. They're very bad. And that every day the legacy media reassures them that they, the sensible centrists and the independents, are more virtuous and morally superior because they won't lower themselves to taking sides in this loud, confusing pie fight between two extremes who are both somehow always equally wrong.
So when you hear anyone, even the good guys, even us, using polyfunctional words and phrases or using soft language to sand the rough edges off our politics, or to distribute blame so widely that ultimately no one is responsible for anything. No one could have foreseen Driftglass. Ask yourself, what is this person trying to do?
Right. Are they like us and people like Heather Cox Richardson? Are they trying to provoke a possible and hopeful future where enough of the American people really do wake up to the threat at our doorstep and really do care enough to vote against it?
Or are they desperately lying to their base, trying to convince them that they are still as one with the American people? while Trump's poll numbers continue to plummet. Speaking of which, Driftglass, according to The Economist this week, Trump's approval rating has hit the Sarah Palin floor of what, Driftglass? 38%. No surprise, this week's headline is about Gallup stopping presidential approval polling altogether.
Yeah, Blue Gal. Fuck those sacred chickens.
Throw
them in the water.
It's going to be until Trump's out of office. And then they'll come back to
and then like, guess what we're doing?
Make numbers that low.
He was on vacation. We just didn't want to get involved in public opinion.
We don't want to get sued by, Emperor Syphilis. Let's do a news roundup, Driftglass.
That's a good idea. Let's do a news roundup.
From the New York fucking Times, February 11th. Quote, Attorney General Pam Bondi refused to apologize to survivors of the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Survivors who were seated in the House Judiciary Committee room on Wednesday and instead demanded that Democrats apologize to President Trump. I said on Blue Sky, I hope those victims get to spit on her headstone.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what's that? I mean it. Ms. Bondi, imitating Mr. Trump's tactic of going on the attack when facing tough questions, offered few detailed answers, no admissions of fault, but many expressions of fealty and admiration for a president who has exercised direct control over her department's actions, which is illegal. Bondi is facing a barrage of questions about the relationship between 3 senior Trump officials and Jeffrey Epstein. Representative Becca Balint, a Democrat from Vermont, asked Bondi if she planned to investigate Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick and his relationship with a sex offender. Bondi replied that he had addressed this himself.
Case closed.
Case closed, right. When Balint mistakenly referred to Bondi as secretary at one point, Bondi cut in and said, "I am Attorney General." Balint shot back, "Excuse me, I couldn't tell." At the House Judiciary Committee hearing, there was an intense exchange between Attorney General Pam Bondi and Thomas Massie, a Kentucky Republican, over the Justice Department's inadvertent release of victims' identities and the redactions of a purported co-conspirator's identity. Who is responsible, asked Massie, who co-wrote the law requiring the department to release the Epstein files. Who in your organization made this massive failure? Bondi responded by calling Massie a failed politician. As an uncomfortable and dramatic moment under pressure from Pramila Jayapal, a Washington Democrat, Bondi refused to apologize over her actions in the case to the victims of Jeffrey Epstein who were in the hearing room. Bondi, who appeared caught off guard, pivoted to attack Jayapal for trying to drag her into the gutter, unquote.
Yeah.
She's seen the pictures. She's seen the pictures of the nude children.
Of course she has. And she sided with one of the co-conspirators. Yeah. The defender of pedophiles.
Yeah.
And her tactic was to refuse to answer Democratic questions, to scream at them, and to open her burn book where she had all of her slanders and all of her smears indexed by tab, and then using the time during the next Republican questionnaire to smear the previous Democratic member and accuse them of being complicit in various crimes. I don't know if you saw this, Blue Gal. I know you've been busy at work today.
Mm-hmm.
But first of all, Jared Moskowitz went after her saying, no, dude, insult me from the burn book. I want to hear the good ones. No, go to your book there. And just, he hung a lantern on it, as they say. Made everybody look. See, she's got this shit written down.
Yeah.
Secondly, you could see through the paper that someone had pulled up the search histories of all the members of the committee.
Of members of Congress.
And what they were looking for.
Members of Congress.
Look, and it was right there in the book. Right there.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. However bad you think it was so much worse and so desperate. These are people who are losing. And they have nothing left but to scream as loud as they possibly can to keep their own people from completely deserting them. To keep that number.
She says the word Epstein in a hearing, she's guilty of perjury. And she's just a good enough lawyer enough to know I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's got to just scream insults and then run away.
She can talk about everything else. Yeah.
Well, here's a few other choice quotes from the shit show. It was utterly surreal. This is Pam Bondi. The Dow is over $50,000. I don't know why you're laughing. You're a great stock trader, as I hear, Raskin. The Dow is over 50,000 right now. The S&P is almost 7,000, and the NASDAQ smashing records. That's what we should be talking about.
Yeah, the Dow was over $50,000. Over $50,000. Like a banana being $10?
Well, and it's not dollars.
No, it's not dollars. That's my point.
And because everyone knows the stock market is measured in quatloos, Blue Gal.
Quatloos, yes. Mm-hmm. And this is also, Bonnie, I find it interesting that she, Congressman Lofgren, keeps going after President Trump, the greatest president in American history. This isn't a circus. She keeps going after Donald Trump. She didn't say how much money she took from Reid Hoffman, did she? Representative Neguse, A.G. Bondi, that man works for you now, right? That man in the video from J6 yelling, kill them at cops. His name is Jared Wise. Bondi, yes, he does work for us. Yes, I believe he was pardoned. Representative Neguse, and you expect hardworking police officers to believe you take law enforcement seriously?
It was 5 hours of this freak show of Pam Bondi rolling around in her own shit to please one person on this planet.
Yeah.
When in the first 90 seconds, it became clear that all day, all she was going to do was alternate between shrieking smears and lies at Democrats and lavishing praise on Donald Trump for being the pinnacle of human evolution. Meanwhile, Blue Gal, the American people shot down a party balloon.
This is from the New Republic this week. Quote, El Paso airport closed after military shot down random party balloon. The Pentagon appeared to believe the balloon was a foreign drone. The FAA briefly closed the airspace over El Paso, Texas. Actually, they promised to leave it closed for 10 days.
Yeah.
Which caused tremendous panic in the area. And the mayor of El Paso got involved almost immediately, trying to get some explanations. This was after the military, the Pentagon, used a high-powered laser to shoot down what appeared to be a drone, but was actually just a party balloon. CBS reports that the Pentagon wanted to use the technology to practice shooting down drones near Fort Bliss, which is next to the El Paso International Airport.
Oh, by the way,
yeah,
my understanding, this is conjecture.
Uh-huh.
My understanding is there's going to be or is going to be a large, or is right now, a large immigration concentration camp.
Yeah.
By Fort Bliss. So they want to practice in case people get cute and decide to look inside using drones. They can shoot them down before they get pictures.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. That makes sense. Despite meetings scheduled to discuss safety issues, Department of Defense, or Department of War, if you wish, officials wanted to test the laser quickly, claiming that legal requirements over the protection of facilities from unmanned aircraft had been satisfied. FAA Administrator Brian with a Y Bedford then decided to close El Paso's airspace Tuesday night without telling the White House, the Department of Defense, or the Department of Homeland Security. According to unnamed sources, Bedford reportedly told officials that the airspace would be closed until the Pentagon resolved its issues with the FAA. Wednesday morning's airspace closure caused, as I said, a brief panic among government agencies, as even emergency medical evacuations were halted. I want you to know, that means the shipment of human body parts for transplant were halted.
Mm-hmm.
You're waiting for a kidney or a heart from El Paso, and it's halted. You should demand blood. I'm sorry.
Because a bunch of assholes wanted to play with lasers.
Play with drones and shoot down drones with unlimited resources to do it. That's the other thing. When the discussion reached the White House, the FAA lifted the restriction within minutes. The FAA and Department of War acted swiftly to address a cartel drone incursion.
Oh, wow. That reminds me. Were you at the concert where El Paso Party Balloon opened for a cartel drone incursion? Because that was a hell of a concert.
Oh, jeez. The threat had been neutralized and there is no danger of to commercial travel in the region. The restrictions have been lifted and normal flights are resuming, Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy said in a statement.
By the way,
I'm in the real world, you know.
By the way, it wasn't a cartel drone incursion. It was
No,
a fucking.
it wasn't.
You lying sack of shit.
Lying sack of shit. As I said on Blue Sky, so no subsidies, and my health insurance went up to $2,561 a month. But Trump and Hegseth have unlimited funds to drone laser a party balloon and shut down El Paso airspace. If Obama did it, part infinity.
Yep. This is from the Associated Press this week. Quote, a newly unsealed FBI search warrant affidavit shows that the seizure of Fulton County, Georgia's 2020 election ballots and records began with a referral from a Trump-appointed Director of Election Security and Integrity, Kurt Olson, who took part in the Stop the Steal campaign and promoted baseless claims of widespread voter fraud, was hired to investigate Trump's 2020 election loss. The affidavit framed the case as a criminal probe into whether alleged deficiencies in ballot handling and record keeping were intentional, but it relied on years-old claims that audits, courts, and prior reviews have all rejected. The warrant authorized agents to take all physical ballots, ballot images, tabulator tapes, and 2020 voter rolls, citing possible violations of federal record retention and election rights laws. Fulton County has asked a judge to order the materials returned, unquote. And finally, that Hillsdale College letter that I've been teasing for the last 40 episodes or so, the one with the survey and the personal note from college president Pat Sajak.
I'm given the cut line, cutting for time.
Okay.
And again,
Fine.
I think we're going to have to do a separate podcast with just that letter.
We're going to do a deep dive. We're going to do, okay, fine. My partner here has told me that we've gone over time. They're starting to charge us by the minute, so we got to go.
Each week, we post to our Patreon page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Ghost. In this photo, Ghost is definitely waiting for spring to arrive. Or maybe he's waiting for the mailman to deliver a box from freshly poured cat food. Yes. Because, of course, Ghost eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve Pet Store Perfection or Dollar Store Dreck, your cat will sit in the front window waiting somewhat patiently to demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Ghost in the window at our Patreon page, patreon.com/proleftpod, or our website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service. Say it with me now. Go Postal Unions. Letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
And you know what? This is your friendly reminder about our gourmet coffee guidelines. We will not shoot down your contribution with a laser if you send it along our way. We promise. We don't even have laser drones, or do we? If you're able to treat yourself to an espresso-based beverage, we ask that you consider treating us to one as well. This isn't charity. This is how we support the work we do. If you can spare just $5 a month, we'd be very grateful for your support at patreon.com/proleftpod or on Venmo, and then look up The Professional Left. Please continue to help.
We got to thank the guy who sent us coffee. Coffee arrived today.
The coffee arrived today from Hawaii.
Oh.
Yes. From genuine Hawaiian coffee, Kona coffee from the beautiful, beautiful Hawaiian Islands, along with some potato chips and other goodies that we're not at liberty to discuss right now, but they were all delightful and much appreciated. And that's because, the guardrails of democracy have to be guarded at all costs. They're coming down fast. And one of the great guardrails of our democracy is the Gourmet Coffee Guideline. So we want to let you know that it's been re-erected, it's in good shape, and you can trust us to take your money and spend it if you send it to us. You can also do something for us for free, which is share our show on social media. Get a friend who's not heard of us before to listen to our show. We think they'll probably enjoy it if you do as well.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, if my Hillsdale College letter hadn't been cut, this would make a lot more sense. Because even though it will definitely put our precious liberties in peril, the Internet Kitties will not be sending Hillsdale College a tax-deductible donation today, tomorrow, or any other day.
No, they won't.
Love you, Blue Gal. I love you to death.
You too, Driftglass. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Let's think about living. Let's think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the whine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is produced and recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright DGBG Productions. ProLeftPod.com.